Okay, so we're going to learn some division to help us with some of the graphing that we have coming up right after this. So long division when dealing with polynomials is a very ugly process, but it turns out that there's a short, easy way called synthetic division that we can use to divide. So let's notice this first problem. It says divide x cubed plus x squared minus 24x plus 36 by x minus 3. Now, as long as our first term in the thing that we're dividing by is just 1x, we can always do this process. And we're going to see that it's that way for all of the problems that we've got coming up. So let's do this division. Now, here's how this works. I'm going to use my draw feature. Whatever we're dividing by, we're going to choose the opposite of the number that is here. So there's a -3 there. We're going to choose a 3. And that 3 goes outside of a division sign. And that's supposed to be a division sign and not lumpy. And what we're going to do is put underneath the coefficients. So I have a 1, a -24, and a 36. 1, -24, and 36. Now, very important, and we're going to note this right here. We need to have all of our exponents descending. So notice this is 3, 2, the unwritten 1, and of course the constant is last. And they all need to be there, and we'll talk about what happens when they aren't there. All right, but let's do our process here. So the funny thing about doing synthetic division is never once do we divide. It's always multiply and add, multiply and add, multiply and add. So the first thing we do, we always bring down the very first number. It just comes straight down. But then it becomes multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. So we're going to say 3 times 1 is 3. And then we add. That's 4. And now it's multiply and add again. 3 times 4 is 12. And we add. -24 and 12 is -12. And then 3 times -12 is -36. And we add, and we get 0. Now 0 means it went into this polynomial nicely without any remainders. Now, let's now convert this back to the actual polynomial answer. We started with x to the third. When we divide by a binomial like this, we will have 1 less in degree. So we started with 3. This is going to be 1x squared, 1 less than the degree that we started with. This is actually 4x. And then the last one is just our constant -12. So if we did long division and divided x minus 3 into this polynomial, we would get this answer through long division. But this, of course, is a much easier way. So let's look at a second example. Let's divide x to the fourth minus 13x squared plus 36 by x plus 2. Now again, notice that we just have a single x here, so we're allowed to use synthetic division. Opposite of 2 is -2, so that's what's going to go on the outside. All right, and here's where we got to be more careful. Up here, we had descending exponents. Here we don't. Let's notice we have a 4th power, and its coefficient is 1. We don't have a 3rd power. So what we need to do is where the 3rd power is supposed to be, we need a 0. We have a -13 in front of our 2nd power. We don't have a plain old x to the first. So again, we need a 0 there. And then we have 36. So having every single exponent represented here is important. Now let's go through that process again. We bring down the 1. And then we multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. So -2 times 1 is -2. Add that column, and that's -2. Let's multiply, add again. -2 times -2 is 4. Add the column, it's -9. Multiply, add again. -2 times -9 is 18. Add the column, that's still 18. And then Negative 2 times 18 is negative 36. Add the column, we get 0. Now you notice the last two we got 0. That's because there was no remainder. If there's a remainder, we'll end up getting something other than 0. But we'll see as we get to our problems that we want to do for graphing that we want this to be a 0. All right, now let's notice what's left over. This started with a 4th power. So this will go down to the 3rd power. So this will be 1x to the 3rd, negative 2x to the 2nd, minus 9x. Notice those exponents are just descending, plus 18. Okay, so let's do one more. So we want to divide this polynomial by x minus 4. Again, notice this is just a plain old x, so we can do synthetic division. Let's put a positive 4 in front. And bring down 2, negative 3, negative 31, and negative 36. And now let's start our process. First, the first number comes all the way down. Now multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. So 4 times 2 is 8. Add, we get 5. 4 times 5 is 20. Add, we get negative 11. 4 times negative 11 is negative 44. And let's see, if we add that, we get negative 80. So here was one that had a remainder. So let's first continue the same way when we're writing our answer. We had a 3rd power here, so this will start with a square. And then 5x. And then negative 11. Now for the remainder ends up going over the top of our divisor, in this case x minus 4. And there we have it.